I recognize very quickly, knowing what's going on in the industry, why certification from Digital Marketing Institute, I feel is an essential thing that not only students in marketing should have, but I think really students that are interested in any kind of entrepreneurialism
Yeah.
should have. I think students that are studying in the liberal arts and studying maybe creative writing, because they are foundational pieces to our media experience. Social media and search and email, these are all things that all companies, small, large, use. So if you're somebody who's going to have an independent business and you have a couple employees, or you're self-employed, or you're going to work for major enterprise, these are foundational kinds of things that you really need to know as part of an educational experience, in my opinion.
Tell us a bit about like your industry connections. What type of messaging have you got from industry leaders over the last 5 or 6 years? Because I'm sure they look to give you guidance as to what they'd like your graduates to have over when they do come out and into the workplace.
Yeah, it's really those two things I mentioned. It's
Mm,
two of the four things that I mentioned. It's the experiences that are going to lead them to be able to say, you should hire me right away. I'm the aspirin for your headache. And this, let me show you what I did in class.
okay.
Case studies are great. I mean, we use case studies. I mean, DMI uses case studies. We're all using case studies. But what we try to do is we try to level that up. We have an amazing operation at our university called the Research Corporation. And the
Okay.
Research Corporation has an area, a center of experiential learning and media and marketing that's really focused on giving students real opportunities with real clients. But the certification from DMI is foundational for them to be able to do that work. So they have to have that foundation before they can get to the next level of actually executing. And that DMI certification is a signal, just like all other kinds of signals that we would try to be giving an employer as to why somebody should hire you, not just because of the certification, that the knowledge that the certification brings, but it's also a indication that I can see something through and I can complete it,
Yes.
right?
Yeah.
So those are all signals to an employer that are important, and that's what the industry folks are looking for. And I guess to book in your question, the things that folks have said to me recently when they've been seeing our students sharing and celebrating their DMI certifications, they comment to me that I'm so glad you're doing this because universities really are not doing this. DMI brought the biggest validation that I could find, because DMI, when you look at the folks who are basically driving the content that is part of DMI, you're seeing the biggest players in the world in brand and marketing. And you're seeing their spokespeople, they're basically their thought leaders of those organizations that are driving what the content looks like and what it feels like. And then once you get into the content that DMI supplies as being part of an accredited program, it is so freaking good. I mean, it's much better than just going out to YouTube and trying to find things and trying to piece things together. I mean, the content and the readings and the webinars and the case study videos, everything is current, everything is relatable. Students love the fact that they're seeing the brands that they interact with. Now they're getting, like, within the last year or less of a case study about something that they actually experienced, right? And so they're seeing it from the other side. And so, when we publish things in a textbook can take up to a year and a half or 2 years to complete.
Yes.
And so how relevant is that when you're working with somebody like and it can be very relevant. So I'm not disregarding
Of
textbooks,
course.
but
Yeah.
I am saying that when you're working with an organization like the Digital Marketing Institute, that content is current all the time.
Mm,
And so the teaching resources that the partnership provided to me were, and as educators, that we're always looking for when we look at a new textbook or we look at some kind of new instructional partnership, we're always going, all right, what kind of stuff are you going to be able to give me for this,
yeah.
to teach my classes? Because a lot of the value is in what kind of content I can bring that I can then curate and deliver to my students. Because again, I think that's an important part of this. It's not like the DMI forces you to adhere to one particular way of delivering this content. You know, you basically work with folks at DMI to figure out, how do we get to the credential level? What do we have to do? How do we assess it? And this is how we want to do it. And DMI is pretty quick to say, we're not going to tell you exactly how you should do it. We just want to be able to look and see it, how you're measuring it, and help you define and make sure that the learning outcomes that you're trying to reach are there.
And what's been the feedback so far from students in general, like, around the content and its delivery and resources? What's the feedback been from students?
It's been fantastic. If
Good.
I think, I mean, I was really pretty much ignorant to how much the students would celebrate their certifications.
Okay.
I knew that they would be, I knew they were excited about the opportunity. And when we brought this in the fall, we had students that were still studying with us that had already taken the classes, and they were like, how can I get that? You know, so we're trying to figure out how we can maybe do a one-off version of that, so that every student that's still here can, because it's something that they have been talking about amongst themselves,
Yeah.
and folks that had the class previously but didn't have the opportunity are wanting. But I think the part that I was really just a kind of asleep at the wheel on
Okay.
was how much students would celebrate it, you know, on social media.
Yeah. Okay.
And it was almost like when the day that you all issued those certificates, you know, which are co-branded certificates that have DMI and ETSU on them. I saw them all over LinkedIn and Facebook, and people were tagging me, and I was just like, how could I have not recognized that as I
Uh,
teach this stuff? How could I have not recognized that this is what was going to be the result? The thing that's so great about the DMI certification is it's not necessarily program specific or
yeah.
platform specific.
Yeah.
Now there are iterations of, if you're going to do Google Ads or you're going to do these kinds
Of
of
course. Yeah.
things, then there are examples and there's case studies and all that stuff is there, and it's very current and it's very accurate. And it's just really great stuff that I didn't have to build thanks to DMI. But the thing is, a lot of these students, they may go big enterprise and they may work, you know, on a entire Salesforce, you know, foundational suite of tools, or they may be working at a you know, a pool manufacturer, and working on a website that's, you know, in WordPress and Google Analytics and different things that are just, you know, so like I said at the beginning, I mean, it could be a very small business, it could be their own business,
Mhm.
um, or it could be, you know, large enterprise, global,
Yes.
foundational. But DMI really kind of checks all those boxes.
How have you found working with DMI as a partner over the last sort of few months or a year?
Fantastic. I mean, very responsive. The first initiation that I had with DMI was just really to say, how can we make you a part of what we're doing, and what is this accreditation thing, you know? And folks were very responsive, were very quick to allow us to look at the content to see how good it was. It's so reasonable in the sense of the costs, you know, for students, and for, you know, however you decide to price it. One of the things I think was super important to us was just not only the validation of the board and the folks that help, and the SMEs that are all part of DMI, and the partners that are industry partners that are part of DMI, but it was also the marriage between DMI and the American Marketing Association.
Okay.
That in itself is a huge validation to say, you know, if the American Marketing Association is going to partner on the pro certification with somebody and it's DMI, I think, you know, you can't get any more of a checkbox on that in terms of, you know, validation.
Yeah.
So accessing materials was super easy. Everybody at DMI is super responsive, super nice like yourself. And and very interested in what the mission of the institution is, and what and how they can help drive the mission of the institution. I think one of the things that I think is very important to understand, and the reason that I've done these partnerships with and have an amazing relationship with Adobe and other companies, but the reason that I bring that is because we have to, as higher education professionals, we and faculty and institutions, we have to make sure that we're preparing that student for whatever is going to be that next step in their journey. And that student, and many students are coming back, especially in the States, that are coming back as what we traditionally would call as non-traditional students. Now they're very much traditional. They're 25 plus years old, and they're trying to reinvent themselves. So if they're coming back, they have a path that they want. They want to be able to come back, get the best practices, the education, and the skills they need, so they can pivot back into industry and get hired, right? And so it's very important for me to be able to put a program together that makes that happen. And I don't feel like you can do that without industry partners.
And just maybe thanks for your time today, Stephen. We might just finish off on one question. Has the DMI partnership helped with student recruitment, or is it too early to say?
No, I really do think it has. I think the amplification that I had mentioned earlier I mean, we have a graduate and undergraduate program. And so oftentimes folks will want to come back to reinvent themselves. They already have a bachelor's, right? So they're trying to figure out a grad school, and they want to be able to do something that's going to add value, not this just the degree they get from the university, but also the certifications that we can bake into. I like to say bake into at their journey, right?
Yep.
And I think so. The amplification that our students are doing has really increased some of the inquiries that we've gotten about our program. Not only from, and I mentioned, but not only from students that aren't here, but also from industry folks who may want to put their people in our program.
Oh, very
So,
good. Yeah. Yeah.
lots of different companies have education funding opportunities,
Yes.
continuing education funding opportunities. And so we've gotten those kinds of things. I think the other uptick that we've gotten from this is really from the high school level,
Okay. Yeah.
and getting on the radar. Different. This is a differentiator.
Yes. Yeah.
For a university, it's a huge differentiator for us being the first in the United States to
Yeah.
have this associate certification.
Yeah.
And those are the kinds of things that I'm always looking at as a marketer. I'm trying to understand what's our value proposition and why are we unique.
Yeah.
What's different about what we can do, and that's what really led me to DMI to begin with. And then once I started kicking the tires, I'm like, oh my gosh, this is a no-brainer for us, really. So students that are coming to the university and they want to do something in the business space, many students in high school don't know what they want to do.
Yeah.
But they do know media, and they
Mhm.
do know great experiences, and a lot of times that's how I'll explain it to them. And because they may not compare the experiences from one university to another, but they are comparing the experiences they're having at a university to the very best experiences they're having in their life. And when I do corporate training for digital experience, which I do, that's a big takeaway, and a big thing that we talk about for a good amount of time, is that customers are not just looking at the experiences that they're having at your institution in a silo. They're looking, or your business, they're looking at what are the very best experiences I'm having. And I know the ones that suck and the ones that don't,
Yeah. Yeah.
So I think that this certification is something that again, it's a signal to somebody to say, wow, if I go to this particular school, I'm going to get a degree, but I'm also going to get this unique certification that I can't get at any other institution, yet. I mean, I think if institutions are smart, they all will adopt this.
Yeah. Okay. Great. And thanks. Look, it's been an absolute pleasure talking to you today. So thanks very much for your time. Thanks, Stephen.